The spread of buckthorn throughout the United States of America. Common buckthorn, also known as European buckthorn, was introduced in the mid-1800s as an ornamental shrub. Originally from Sweden, Russia, Siberia, China, and most of Europe, here is a picture of common buckthorn. European buckthorn infests forest, prairies, and savannas, mainly in the Midwestern United States, and can form dense thickets in the forest, crowding out native shrubs and plants. It is difficult to remove and can come back after cutting or burning. Also, it is very expensive to remove. Questions: why and where is buckthorn a problem? How does it affect the ecosystem? And what are the most effective ways to halt the distribution of it? As you can see in this chart, the states colored in green are currently facing a problem with buckthorn. The green states include 36 out of 50, which shows how rapidly this problem has grown because originally buckthorn was only introduced in one state. Some problems that go along with buckthorn are that it steals light, moisture, and nutrients from native species. It creates a dense, dark understory thicket, meaning it pretty much overcrowds the forest. Birds and most animals cannot eat it due to a toxin in the plant, which is a problem because if buckthorn is pushing out other native plants, it leaves no food for the animals. And lastly, birds that usually nest in dense areas higher on the ground are now nesting in the buckthorn, which is lower to the ground, but since they're no longer up in the trees, they're more susceptible to predators and are being eaten. Why is buckthorn so successful? First, it is rarely eaten, as previously noted, because it has no predators in America. Second, it already had a faster growth period than our native species. Also, it has a longer growing season than our native plants by up to 58 days, which means it can grow larger, accumulate more energy, water, and among other things. Also, it has a wide range of tolerance for soil and light conditions, meaning it can strive and become a problem in a multitude of areas, not just one setting. Lastly, the seeds can lay in the soil for up to 6 years before sprouting, which means the problem could be in an area that people don't even know about, so it would be impossible to stop. In these charts, they examine two areas, one with buckthorn, one without. It examines the soil content and how the nutrients are affected. First, in the top left, nitrogen is looked at. Clearly, in the buckthorn forest, the nitrogen levels are higher. The same can be said about the carbon levels and the pH. Now, one might say, oh, so buckthorn creates more nutrients. While yes, this is true, overproduction of nutrients is actually bad. For example, in nitrogen, when there's too much of it in the soil, it can halt the flowering, it can halt the production of berries, and it increases the production of leaves, meaning the plant needs more water. This causes many problems in the plants. Buckthorn is killing the soil with too many nutrients. So methods for control are hand pulling, which is physically getting on the ground and pulling the plant out of the ground. Cutting, which is using a saw to cut it out of the ground. The can method comes after cutting, which you place a can on top of the shrub to halt the growth in the future. Burning it's pretty self-explanatory. It burns the buckthorn out of the ground. And herbicides are a chemical solution to the problem, which kill the plant, but is also harmful. Personally, I think that none of these methods noted work that well because, first, the first three are very labor intensive. Cutting, hand pulling, and the can method require extensive work on individual plants, and you won't really get anywhere. Burning and herbicides work well, but they're not completely effective because they don't get down to the root. They burn the surface, and then the plant just grows back. In the future, I think a study should be done to figure out its natural predators from Europe. If an insect or something can be introduced that doesn't affect our native plants but can kill the buckthorn, that would be great. Also, I think that someone needs to develop a new control method because the current ones are either too expensive, too labor intensive, or simply don't work.